In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hola, hippies. Paz en nuestro barrio. Hope you're having a good week. This is your old pal Dr. Woody with another installment of the As the Cookie Crumbles. We're going to talk about political platitudes today. Back in the 1930s, Justice Louis Brandeis wrote, "We may have democracy or we may have wealth concentrated in the hands of a few, but we cannot have both." As Ike's military-industrial complex speech and some of FDR's talks, Brandeis was not warning us against some possible remote outcome. He was instead reciting actually a eulogy, explaining how it had come to pass that the wealthy had usurped democracy and turned it into their own private playground. Because the choice, of course, had already been made in 1932 or so. It was to save plutocracy and hypostatize wealth. I was reminded of Brandeis's apt and somewhat apposite observation regarding this subject while perusing the Facebook, where I happened upon the image at the top of this column, but right now you'll see on the screen. I want to answer it point by point, since it seems to me to want to represent some kind of an apologia from the occupation against claims about their agenda. I have seldom read a more naive pile of horse crap, bullshit, codswallop, horse hockey, malarkey, piffle, and balderdash in this whole year. I want to dispatch each item point at a time. First, it declares we're not against the rich. We're against using wealth to gain unfair advantage. Well, codswallop, of course we're opposed to great wealth per se. The only reason or purpose for excessive wealth is to use it to corner political power. What about the Nelson Bunker Hunt brothers? Why else would you want it? And besides, to the rich anyway, being wealthy's not an unfair advantage. Hell no, it's not. It's the one they believe they've earned. It's this inevitable dynamic which is going to be present as long as there is no limit on the amount of wealth one may amass or hold on to, and no effective way to either embarrass them or extract it from them. Next, they say, we're not against corporations. We're against corporations governing us. But in any political economy in which corporations own and operate the equipment, the machinery, and manage the vote, naturally, they're going to run things. So, of course, we oppose rampant corporatism. Corporations shriven of any responsibility to do anything, honor anything but their bottom lines, will inevitably use their power to usurp the authority of more democratic institutions, because corporations are inherently anti-democratic. They are autocratic. The claim is made, we're not against the banks, we're against fraudulent banking practices. But I have to say, of course, no, that's wrong. We are hostile to banks per se, corporate ones especially. Their only actual legal responsibilities are to their stockholders. Their depositors can pound sand. They must show profit by law. So they'll turn every trick possible, every slickery, every fraud, just to extort and pry an extra dinar from their depositors to return to the stockholders. Banks practice frauds the way dogs scratch fleas reflexively. The only banks which might be immune are depositor-owned institutions like credit unions, not savings and loans, but credit unions. Then we see we are not against investment markets. We are against fraud in those markets. But investment markets are about fraud. They're always about fraud. No industry which depends on securitizing, that is to say, commodifying and then selling collections of what are basically gambling markers for bets for and against average citizens paying their mortgages on time, for that industry's solvency, or on imaginary things like commodity futures, can ever escape from the claims of fraud brought against it. It's all on a dreamscape. It says we're not against capitalism, we're against corruption in capitalism, but that's another absurdity. On the face of it, capitalism itself, like all the institutions it spawns, is inherently and intrinsically corrupt. It depends on that which cannot be: endless growth, or the promise of it. Its only natural end state is monopoly, with competition only used for the purpose of driving out competitors, after which the state is employed to preserve the monopolist's power. And democracy, poor democracy, inside such an array of corruption, it's impossible, because the representatives, of course, will always already be available to be bought on one pretext or another. There is nothing in the economic order of the United States which is designed, built, intended, or structured to actually advance the interests of the average person. Nothing. Though there are parts of it which, through accident or inadvertence, do not directly fuck us up. But it's past time to forego the illusion that there's anything in it for you. Pause, hippies.